Hi, I'm Michelle McVittie, and I'm Mom the Manager. I'm a child life specialist and family and corporate consultant.
I'm Debbie Fazio from Precious Moments Babies. I'm a parenting coach and sleep consultant.
And today we're going to be talking about starting a routine. So
Great topic.
why? Yes. And why start a routine? Why, do clients come to you for routines? And I'll talk a little bit about the older kids, but let's start with the younger ones.
Sure. Well, when we're talking about routines with little ones, we're talking about what we're physically doing before or during something happening. So I know when we talk about older children, we talk about, washing our hands prior to eating or, getting our PJs on before bed. And that's similar with babies. So when we talk about routines, typically they have to do with sleep routines and wake routines that are going to enlighten the child and help them understand what is going to happen next, which makes it a little bit easier for everyone involved. Do you find the same with the older children?
Yes, and I think so. It's nice to know what's going to happen next. They understand what is expected, and the purpose of a routine is to create a habit. So if I want my child to come in through the door, put their shoes away, hang up their backpack, and wash their hands, I have to set that up. And it's going to look different for a smaller child into an older child, but you can have a schedule and you can have a visual, a checklist, and an expectation that if you want something like watching TV or going outside to play, then A, B, and C need to be done, right?
Exactly. And I know when we're talking about little ones, it's most often reflected in regards to sleep. But one of the biggest things is that we don't want to be changing it from one to the next. So the two routines that we kind of bounce from is a nap routine and a bedtime routine. And a nap routine is a lot shorter. We want that to be around 5 minutes in length. And generally, we would suggest a parent to maybe start to wind down the house a little bit, maybe turning off the TV, maybe even talking a little softer, getting little one to relax, possibly change a diaper, have a little snuggle, read a book, but we want it to be about 5 minutes. Whereas before bed, we're looking for more of a 20 to 30 minutes. And that would be where parents would maybe incorporate a bath, a massage, a story time, maybe a nice little soft dance and snuggle with parents. And you want that to be about 20 to 30 minutes. But you want to be consistent. So you want to make sure that if you're using a routine before nap and you're using a routine before bed, that you are keeping it consistent from one day to the next and not changing it, because the little ones will create a habit and understand what that means, that this means I'm going down for a sleep time. So if you do that routine and then all of a sudden do something different, like go to the park, it's going to confuse them. So we want to make sure we have that consistency to help them to wind down so that they understand what is the next thing that's going to happen.
Absolutely. So I think the thing too is I just think about my parenting journey, and I have a 15-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I remember with my daughter, I was not consistent. And what I was doing was I was panicking. And it's like, I'm going to try this. Well, that didn't work. So I'm going to try this. Well, that didn't work. And I'm going to try this again. And actually, I'm going to take a combo of A, B, and C and mash it all together.
Mm.
And I think that's where when you are struggling, it is good to have a source, somebody that you can go to say, what are the right answers? Because there's so many answers out there and there's so many quote unquote experts. Where are you getting your information when you do feel stuck? Because I think what's helpful and what I find parents like when they talk to me or they read one of my blogs or they download one of my instant downloadables, they're like, okay, I understand what I'm supposed to be doing because there's an explanation here and I'm not taking a little bit from here and a little bit from there. And then my mom comes in or my best friend says, no, 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 you don't do it that way. You should be doing it this way. And now I'm confused.
That's right. That's right. And a little secret is it takes about 3 to 5 days to create a habit in a little child, in about a 1.5 to 2 years and up. So anything that a parent is doing, they should be doing the exact same thing at least for 3 to 5 days.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I find a lot of parents will try something and it didn't work. So the next day they try something else. That didn't work. So the next day they try something else, right? And troubleshooting is something that we learn in JK. In junior kindergarten, we learn if one thing doesn't work, try the next. But the key with all children of all ages is you have to give it a chance. for the
Yes.
child to understand what is going on. So if you're changing it all the time, that's going to create confusion. I mean, imagine us, right? How do we feel when, Monday we are used to getting up and brushing our teeth and having a shower and doing our, having our coffee. We get in the car and we're going to do our 30-minute drive to work. And then all of a sudden there's an accident on the highway. And now that just messed up your whole day by an hour and a half.
Yes,
We get
absolutely.
flustered. And I'm sure with the children who are a little older, that it's the same with them.
Yeah, and that's the thing too with routine is being consistent is really important, especially when you're trying to teach something, when you're trying to give the message that these are the time priorities and these are the things that are important, and absolutely having fun and doing what you want. That's the motivator, and that's the quote unquote reward. So you do that process. What sometimes gets a little bit tricky with the older ones, though, is that parents become too rigid, and it becomes like, well, we have to leave the party now, we have to get home, we have to do this. And then if something doesn't go well with some children, they're those black and white thinkers, and you throw some gray at them, their heads pop off.
so true.
Or the parents have a panic because it has to be this way, and the world is very gray. So what we're saying is, let's start this way with the little ones, um, and incorporate a little bit of change here and there so it doesn't completely throw the child off. But it is teaching habit, and it's saying this is what's important. And when things don't go so well, we can look back on it and say, what could we have done differently? Or is this been okay? And we actually recuperated and we did okay, and acknowledge to the child that we did okay. Or give yourself a pat on the back and said, we went over to grandma's house for the weekend to sleep over, and they did it. They slept in a playpen. They did things a little bit differently,
Yeah,
right?
you're right. I think an important thing is keeping in mind that schedules and routines and consistency are the norm, but they don't have to be the only option. So if you choose, to go on a vacation for a week and your whole routine and schedule are thrown off, or in the summertime, a lot of people kind of throw all that out of the window, that's fine. Just understand that it will take a little bit of time to just get back on track. And it's very, simple process to get back on track, but you do have to give it time. So
Absolutely.
huge importance is you want your children to be resilient and be able to be versatile like that and not feel like they always need the exact same thing all the time.
Absolutely, absolutely. The other thing too that you were mentioning was, parents kind of panicking is something that I did myself, and knowing to stay the course instead of just, panicking and doing all these different things. And I'm a big advocate of self-care, as you know. I wrote a book on it. So being able to get started on a routine and staying consistent means that the parent is prepared, and the parent is going to be able to deal with a little bit of distress in their child and a little bit of distress in themselves as well. Because if you're having a hard time because that 3-year-old is saying, no, 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 come lay down with me, you need to sleep with me until I fall asleep, and I can't handle this. And then, I mean, some parents even talk about a child that's vomiting, will vomit because they get so upset. And it's like, you know what, this isn't worth it. Eventually, they'll get to sleep on their own.
Mhm.
They're not going to be ready, and it's not going to work, right? But if you are ready, that self care and being able to turn the volume down on your own stress a little bit will help you in those situations when you're second guessing yourself or things aren't going as planned.
You're right. A great tip for parents who are trying to do any kind of parenting on their own, whether they're trying to change a behavior or trying to get their little one to sleep. If you're doing this on your own, write it down. Write down your plan. Don't just wing it. Don't
Mhm.
just see what happens. Write down what you're going to do on day one, what you're going to do on day two, what you're going to do on day three, so that
Yeah,
you are accountable to yourself as well. If you
absolutely.
kind of wing it, then you end up where you're doing something different all the time and you're not going to see any kind of results because you're changing it all the time on your little one. So,
Yes.
I'll give you a little example, and you may have heard of this one, but I was an infant sign language instructor.
Mhm.
And one of these signs for milk is this motion.
Mhm.
And what they say is if you do this with your baby and acknowledge that this means milk, verbally saying that, eventually they're going to start to do that motion. But what's going to happen is in the beginning, they might not be doing this. They might be doing this.
Mhm.
And if you change what you're doing to
Mhm.
accommodate this
Yeah.
and you start doing what they're doing, well, now they're going to see you doing something different. And now all of a sudden you see them doing a different motion because they're trying to mimic that. So that's the key, is consistency. Keep doing what you're doing. And as your little one starts to learn and get older, they're going to get better and they'll be able to mimic exactly what you're trying to get from them.
Absolutely. And what you're teaching your child too is that we are going to stay consistent in this, and that, some children will fight more. They will fight this a little bit more because this normally worked. If I cried enough, or if I tried to climb over the crib, or I threw my bottle, or I had a temper tantrum, or climbed into your bed, it worked. And what we're saying is, that's right. It did in the past. We're going to try things differently. And again, depending on the age of the child, you're going to have those conversations. You're not going to have conversations with a 9-month-old or a 2-year-old, but maybe a 3 and up. We can say, we're going to try something different. And actually, what would you like incorporated in the evening routine, or in the nap routine, or whatever it is? And what songs do you like, or what stuffy, or what pajamas would you like to wear? And how do we get them there? Because for them, the motivator is the story, is the cuddle. We have to get all these things done first.
Right. And I always love how you say, if you do this, you can do this.
Yes.
I think
yes.
I don't know if I got that
When
word
then,
for word.
then. Yes.
So when they do this, you can do this. So
That's right.
I love that you bring that up, because that's not only applicable to sleep, but that's applicable to wake time. So I don't know if you can tell me a little bit about how that looks in terms of a routine for wake for a little bit of an older child, how you would incorporate that when then.
Well, the when they're waking up, depending on the child, some children might like a slower wake up. We're in a panic, and it goes back to self-care. So we're ripping off the covers, we're turning the lights on. How would you feel, right? Like, hurry up, let's get going. Some parents, what they do too is like, I'll let the bear sleep because this child is a little more, aggressive or not so grumpy in the morning. So I let them sleep. But this child actually needs an hour to get ready. Now we're rushing them. Now we're turning on the lights, and we're giving them 20 minutes, right? So we're rushing. So what is it that they need? And maybe it's more of a gentle wake up, but I'm going to have to wake them up earlier. And then in the morning, steps 1, 2, and 3 need to be done. When you do what I want, then you get what you want. And the then could be, I can go outside and play. I can watch one of my YouTube videos. I can play some Lego, whatever it is. Sometimes the motivator is just spending time with you and having some breakfast together, because some children will just act out instead of saying, hey, and no children are really going to say, hey, mom, I'm going to school or daycare. I haven't seen you in a while. Please sit down, have some breakfast with me. No, they're going to have a meltdown, right?
Absolutely. Great point.
Right? So when we do that when then, and we don't jump into fix, we don't say, fine, you can have it, or we walk around on eggshells, we're saying, when you do what I've asked you to do and what is the priority, then you can be rewarded with what you're looking for. But you're not going to say, when you get dressed, then you can put the recycling out, right? It has to be something they want.
I love that. I love that you and I do such similar work, but in such different ways.
Yes.
And it's something that I think parents are so fortunate to have these days. Because I'll be honest, my children are much older. They're 19 and 21, and we definitely didn't have the resources that are available to parents nowadays. So whether they're attempting parenting on their own, or whether they've hired a sleep consultant to work with them one-on-one, the support for all parents is really there when they need it.
Absolutely. And that means something different for everybody, whether they're downloading one of your online courses or one of my downloadables, or having one-on-one consultations with either one of us or with somebody else, or doing something different. You have to find the right fit and know that there has to be a start. And the start is that you're ready and you're prepared to deal with a little bit of discomfort and distress in yourself. But that consistency is really helpful. So I'm hoping that everybody found this helpful, and we are always around to support and connect with you if you need further assistance.
Awesome. Well, have a great day, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.